I am Blaze Bailey. You are experiencing probably the best show in the world, Poppitt's Corner.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a special edition of Poppitt's Corner, another episode here. And I got my main man, the wonderful Mr. Shannon Fry. How you doing today, sir? Thanks again for coming on, hanging as always. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well. Excited for today's episode.
It should be a doozy, man. This one I figured would be a little bit more special, a little bit more, I guess, closer to home in terms of being a fan and in a band ourselves. And knowing that our said bands kind of have some fans out there that are some diehards, man. They're like, speaking for me personally, there's some diehard Madras fans out there. So the topic that I wanted to discuss is because I'm getting ready to, I'm in the midst of releasing this. I'm getting ready to release the first batch of it. And I'm going to ask you this as a fan and as a member of a band yourself here, is how important is it for you to preserve your early catalog within any band's career? And meaning like, so even the demo days, live performances, stuff in the vault that doesn't get shared publicly, how important is it for you as a fan and as a member of a band to preserve your specific legacy? How important is it to preserve that?
Well, I think it's quite important to preserve it. I think it's important to preserve it, not only for myself, like, because to me, when you get bootlegs from people who are in the crowd filming your show or recording your show audio wise, I think it's amazing when you're able to hear it back, and when you're able to look back on it yourself and just kind of reminisce and all the memories and stuff of that particular show or that particular era. Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think
But
it's very important.
I'm not talking in terms of just like it's only meant for you. I'm talking like getting it out publicly, pressing it on a physical format, preserving it, documenting it, putting our album artwork on it, and just preserving that as part of your catalog, right? That's what I guess I'm curious about. Not
Mm,
just these one-offs where like somebody documents, they do a live show or something, because those are like kind of like not throwaways per se, but every band has them. There's plenty of them. But I'm talking like soundboard recordings, or you know, making like compilations of all your demo stuff. And I'm sure you're like me, who has a lot of stuff in the vault that like you haven't made an excuse to release it yet, and hopefully you will. But I'm just curious, is that important to you to eventually release it, or are you one of these guys in for yourself that doesn't want to release it, that it's you might think it's not 100% quality, so to
hmm
speak, so it stays in the vault?
There's,
Hmm.
hmm yeah. To me, I'm not one to release my own band stuff. I'd rather not because not only okay for the fans of a certain band, I can see why that fan would love the shit out of that stuff. For me personally, though, being that I've been through all that I've been through with this band, uh, it's kind of a catch 22. But about I would love for people to hear it, but for me to package it up, I don't think I would want to go through that aspect. That's just me personally. And I don't want to reopen any of those wounds that happen to be there still all these years later, because it's still kind of, I mean, it's been a while, but it's just, to me, it's the wrong place to go. I don't want to pick that scab and watch it bleed, because that's exactly what would happen in my view. But for other bands, like, I would love to have sound recordings and everything from my favorite bands. And I have some soundboard recording bootlegs of Black Sabbath and Judas Priest. Uh, I think for them to be packaged, that would be seriously awesome. But then again, those are old bands, and they've been through a lot. And no matter what, they have never done anything really wrong, or had anything wrong really happen for them to, I don't know, to maybe not do it.
Well, here,
But there are
here,
some labels who have put those bootlegs out. You know what I mean? Am I answering the question correctly?
well, here's the thing. I think putting yourself aside because you're really close to Avenger of Blood. I'm just gonna
Hmm.
throw it out there. We're both close to our like we're in the trenches of our bands. I'm really super close to Madras, right? Just like you are super close to Avenger of Blood. Now you're
Hmm.
mentioning bands that you're not super close with, right? But you're
Hmm.
fans of the band. Now I'm gonna put it in perspective for you.
Okay.
As a fan, right? As a
Okay.
fan of Avenger of Blood,
Okay.
so you're essentially telling the fan that this would never happen, right?
Hmm.
But my whole thing is regardless, and we're gonna put aside your specific differences and to ex members, whatever that the case may be. I'm gonna put those aside and just if you didn't have that, would you be more inclined to release something like that?
I think I would be. I think I would be. Um, to expunge upon that, though, is kind of hard because I am so close and I am so connected. But I, I, I think, I think people would really love it. I think people would love it.
Because you're mentioning your favorite bands, Priest and I mean,
Sabbath.
Kiss or Sabbath or any of those kind of bands. I think it's super cool when bands do it, just as a fan. So I'm
Mm.
almost putting myself in the fan perspective. And you're right, like I'm close to my stuff, but when there's certain eras of the band's career that are like they were only around for a couple months and we just happen to have this stuff documented and the sound quality is really good, why not release it? That's what my whole thinking is. It's you gotta have to like almost explain to the fans like, hey, like this is something really special. Uh we're releasing it regardless, warts and all. Here you go. You kind of have to
Hmm.
like explain it like, hey, this isn't a new record or anything. This is like something fun that we wanted to do and preserve an era of the band's career that otherwise would be lost in time. So I think it's really important for any bands to do this, especially if you own the masters to those said things as well, because a lot of the soundboard recordings that you're talking about, like with these big bands, who knows who actually owns them, and it's probably a legality thing and whatnot. But I just as a fan of bands in general love that stuff. I love hearing old bands or new bands demos and stuff that you just can't get readily available. So when it becomes readily available, I think it's super, super cool, super important just as a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that point. Yeah, it is very cool. It's very cool as a fan. Very cool.
But as a band, we're looking at it in terms of like legalities and money wise. So all that shit kind of fucks with the the whole
It-
process of wanting to do something like this. Do you know what I mean?
that too. Yeah. Yeah, very
So
much so.
if we didn't have to deal with that, I'm sure more you would see more cool stuff being released, like radio promos and just cool shit like that. Again, maybe I'm going off on a little tangent here, but I just personally think it's super important and would love all bands to get that opportunity too. And I'm just curious, maybe why doesn't that happen? Contracts? Is it always moving forward, so you don't even think about releasing that stuff, or
I think many bands just think it's not good enough to put out. You know what I mean? I mean, you get So if we're talking 70s, 80s, maybe early 90s, there's someone in the crowd with a tape recorder under his jacket and he's pressing record, and then somehow that ends up amongst the fans, amongst whatever. It gets put on. Some labels have done that where they put decent sound recording just out of somebody's little home recorder, whatever that they're dealing with. I think what I really like, and maybe more bands can do this too, not just recordings, but books, photo albums, or I'm really big into documentary, biography DVDs, or movies, rather, what you will. I'm really into that. So when I hear like how a band started and it's interviewing all these members and they're each able to tell a story, I think that should be done a lot more. But that's my personal thing, and I would love to do that for my own personal band even, and I would love to see it for Madras,
That
amongst
would be
every other
amazing.
band that I really love. I think they should all do it. But you know, as far as recordings though, that part is, I don't know. To some, I guess, man, how to have that treasure, I guess, is just is it would be kind of mind blowing.
Well, like I said, I just think it's super important and just like in preserving and documenting history, because I was talking with Tony Cole because he's going to be doing the album artworks for it. The series that I'm doing is it's called Lost Lives, Volume Ones and Volume Two. So it's going to be a 2-volume set of and I've talked about it on other podcasts, and I'm letting the cat out of the bag for the first time ever on here. Is I found 5 to 6 um, live recordings from a place called Hoagie Barmichael's that was here, during the mid 2000s to the tens or whatever, which is where we started, right? It's where the band started. And
Mm.
again, I've talked about that on other podcasts and whatnot. But what I haven't mentioned is I'm picking two. It's going to be called Lost Lives, Volume 1 and Volume 2, where I'm going to pick the two best shows, warts and all, mistakes and all. There's even a part in one of them where you can hear me tuning midway through, or midway through the song or whatever. So my whole thinking was, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna throw it out there and see what happens. Because why not? These things wouldn't be documented. Nobody knows the early days of the band's career, anyways. Not 2007 to 2009 or 10, right?
Mhm.
Which is where
Right.
these will be from 2008 to 2009. So I think in terms of that and preserving not only our early history, but a venue that isn't here anymore too, that was so crucial to us, and kind of paying tribute to that. I think, why not? I have nothing to lose. It's not like you guys are going to be judging the band off of these albums, because they're live albums and whatnot. It's not like, do you know what I'm trying to get at? Because you can't judge. I feel it's unfair to judge a band with a live album or a compilation, or either way. I'm just gonna release it, and just, why not? you know Package it all. That way I have 6 or 7 CDs to kind of pass around to people. And maybe if somebody buys this kind of CD, I'll throw in one of the live albums as a freebie. So it only kind of furthers that whole kind of like fandom and whatnot. It's like, oh cool, what is this? And you read like the liner notes, you read, I'm gonna tell like a forward to each of them and what I remember about the shows and watching back on the videos and whatnot. Just, I don't know, I just, as a fan, I think that's super cool.
Right.
Just as a fan, like, again, I get it from your perspective, and we're super close to our said projects and whatnot. But at the end of the day, man, I think like a fan. If I was a fan of us, I think this would be super rad to have in my collection for the completist, for sure. And digitally
Right.
wise, I'm not even going to release it digitally. I'll do like 1 or 2 tracks digitally, you got to buy the album or whatever. And I'm sure it will be on the internet sooner rather than later when somebody buys a physical copy, but I'm not going to do it digitally.
Mm-hmm.
It's one benefit to doing physical media. You don't have to put everything on the internet.
Right.
It's kind of like for the collector.
So let me ask you, since you finally letting this out for the first time, are these going to be hand numbered or numbered rather, and are you only going to make a certain amount, and then that's it? Once these are gone, that's it.
Well, here's the thing. There's freedom in what I'm doing right now. And where I'm going with this is I'm going to do at least, 200 to 300 copies. And who knows how many I'll print? Maybe it'll just be the 200 to 300 copies. You know what I mean? I could do whatever I want because I own them. They're my
Right.
masters or my whatevers. I think there's freedom in that. There's freedom in not caring. There's freedom in just not listening to people and not caring what people are saying and not just go out and do it. Why not? I'm a doer, man. I don't talk. I know I got the show to talk to people, but I don't like talking, right? I'm going to be
Right.
doing this.
Right.
So I not hand numbered, but there may only be 200 to 300 copies. And this, what the cool thing is this, having this stuff with killer artwork to preserve it as well. If I wanted to go repress it 10 years or 15 years later or something, I could do that too. Make a
Mm-hmm.
second round and just, if you didn't get it the first time, you can get it the second time, kind of deal. So it makes it special for the fan. And so with that in mind, to me, I don't see anything wrong with what I'm doing currently and what bands should do more of, in my opinion, which is not be afraid to, dig into the vault, release some stuff that hasn't been heard ever. Right. Case in point, like the Into the Aquatic Sector reissue that we did. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It had a live bonus material, had a live bonus disc.
Right.
Right. How cool was that? As a fan, it's like, well, if you already have Into the Aquatic Sector, you don't have this copy with brand new artwork, with the second bonus disc, with it all remastered and packaged properly, and the 8-page booklet. You don't, if you already have the original version, that's great. But it incentivizes the buyer or the consumer or the fan to get that second copy as well. So you have two different versions, essentially of the same thing, but this has all the bonus material that otherwise would not be on the original. That's why it's important to have bonus material. That's why I love buying stuff that has bonus material.
Right. Right.
Like, I think Scream Bloody Gore from Death had like the 2 bonus tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the original pressing had like 10 tracks, and then they reissued it and it had 12 tracks. And those 2 tracks are just as great as the rest of it. It just fits so well. So I don't know, man. I love when bands do that, just as a fan. So I
Right.
just wanted to get your take as the fan goes. So give it to me real quick.
Well, as the fan, yes, I'm all about it. All about everything about the band, because who knows if you're ever going to hear that again, like you said, or for the first time even. Yeah, there's so many bands that I would love to have that for. Thousands.
And
Um,
now why not apply it to your own band though? Because you're
because
closer.
I'm so connected to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
It's
get it. As a fan, I would love somebody to have my Avenger Live shit, bootlegs, all that too. I would love it. But I know for me, that's not possible. But
not
I'm
yet.
glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad Madrost is going to tear it up and show the world what those early days are about. I'm
And
excited for it.
I'll make sure you get a couple copies and whatnot. But when I was going through everything, because it's a lot of stuff, dude. I mean, I have a lot of stuff in the vault here. When I was going through it, I'm working with Tony Cole right now, right? I don't want too many chefs in the kitchen. I just want, a kind of a partner to bounce back and forth some ideas on. And Tony's that perfect kind of yin to the yang for me. He's got great
Right.
ideas and I got great ideas. And we've been brainstorming. And he didn't realize how many lineup changes the band actually had in the beginning days. And he's like, dude, if you hadn't sent me those videos, like, well done. I had no idea what you personally went through with this band. The fact that you're still here doing it after all these years, it's amazing that you're still here. And I'm like, well, I never thought of it like that.
Mhm.
But if I hadn't done this, got this project, the ball rolling on it, he wouldn't even know that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's been like 15 years. It's not like this happened yesterday. This is, these have been in my vault for 15 plus years, man.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, it's like, I have nothing to lose. Why not? This is how the band started, man. This stuff isn't documented yet. Here's my documentation of it. So I don't know. You might get to a place where you might feel comfortable enough to do it. You might mend relationships or whatever it is that you got going on and want to release something like that. You just never know.
Mhm.
So just wanted to get your take on it and give me your kind of top 5 favorite bands that have released this kind of stuff that you're really into.
Well, Black Sabbath, they've done some wild stuff. If you remember when they released the re-release of the Eternal Idol that happened not long ago, I think it was 10 years maybe. Well, they released the live album with Ray Gillen. One live show with Ray Gillen on vocals, and that's just amazing.
I don't think it was a live show. I think it was like the demos, right? It was like a demo version of the album with Ray singing on it.
Oh, was that okay?
So you have the Tony version and the Ray version, which is
Right.
super cool, man. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
there's
then they've
one.
released what they called, well, in the beginning it was, God, what was it called? Live at Last. Black Sabbath, Live at Last, and then they re-released it and they called it Past Lives. I thought, and that's like the full show, not just a small segment of it. It's the full thing, and they repackaged it. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite live albums.
Now, do they have to be perfect for you to buy it? Or do you
As
almost
long as the
purposely
band that I love is perfect that is releasing it, yes. The product don't have to be perfect. But
meaning the material on it, not the packaging and
right.
whatnot, but I'm talking like, maybe they stop playing for a second, they come back in, it's like, oh shit, that was really cool. I really think that's really, really neat for a
Right.
fan, man.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, give me another one here, because I got one perfect example of this. So go ahead.
Okay. Another one. Well, Metallica in the early days, they've just constantly releasing old stuff. I remember, and I don't know if it was them even releasing stuff, because I had friends that in high school that would buy vinyl copies of interviews with Lars and interviews with Lars and Dave Mustaine at the time, and interviews with Lars and Cliff and James. But then they've also, they themselves have no, I can't say they have, but I know there's a lot of stuff out there that has been released, like small EPs, some bonus live stuff that have been thrown on. Maybe they will now that they have their own record label, but those are the only two bands that I can really
Say, yeah, I get it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let me give you a perfect example of like, and look, they're not the greatest sounding, but I still love that they're out there. And this was only released kind of digitally well after the band has not, has ceased to exist. But Death they reissued a lot of Death live shows from certain tours with certain lineups, and it's like super rare but I think Relapse did this. And yeah, some of them aren't the best sounding, but I just love the fact that they're out there.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of what you know, of again, of the sound and the playing and the fact that it's like, oh, this has Ralph Santala on guitar during the, you know, the Individual Thought Patterns tour. It's like, oh, this is awesome. Because how many
Mm.
how many of those are you going to hear in your life? Not a lot.
Right. Right.
So perfect example, man. But any final thoughts to this topic? I just wanted to do a nice little quick hitter here. Get your thoughts on this kind of set topic. I love bonus material when it comes to bands, man. It's just super rad, super fun, and preserving.
Yeah. No, I, I hope more bands do it. I really do. Just like you mentioned, it's a great idea. Seriously, is a great idea.
Why not, man? You know, if you put aside the legalities of it, the money, the this, the that, it's just it'd be nice if more bands could do that and would do that. Take a chance and maybe be like, you know, this isn't 100%, but I think it's not. I think it's good enough to release, and people would be appreciative of the fact that a band would release something like that. So, but yeah, Shannon, what do you have coming up as far as Avenger of Blood stuff goes in terms of, you know, the new records or any of that kind of stuff?
Still mixing, still working on it. As soon as we get more, you'll be the first to know. Should be any day that we should start having more news and more things starting to come down the pike. I mean, I'm lining things up as it goes, but I have nothing really to announce yet. So I'm just kind of taking it one day at a time, and things are working out.
I love
It'll
it, man.
get there. It'll get there.
Love it. Well, Shannon, I really appreciate a moment of your time as always, my friend. Looking forward to the next one and for another episode of Poppitt's Corner, guys. We're out of here. Cheers.